The world is full of mysteries waiting to be uncovered. And some of them are hidden in the pages of ancient texts. Throughout history, many books have been lost, suppressed, or destroyed, sometimes for their knowledge, sometimes for their power. Among these is the Ethiopian Bible, believed to hold shocking secrets about the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and the ancient faith of the Ethiopian people. These secrets are considered dangerous and have been labeled illegal by many experts on religious texts and relics. Join us as we dive into the shocking revelations of this ancient Ethiopian Bible, revealing terrifying knowledge about the human race. Ethiopia, the cradle of ancient Christianity. To understand why the Ethiopian Bible is often shrouded in mystery and intrigue in the West, we need to look at the roots of Christianity in Ethiopia. Ethiopia, Africa's oldest independent nation, holds a unique and enduring place in Christianity. Here, faith is more than a religion. It's a cornerstone of identity and pride. The roots of Ethiopian Christianity trace back to a tale steeped in legend. The Queen of Sheba's visit to King Solomon, mentioned in 1 Kings, and her connection to Ethiopia's heritage. Christianity's true establishment began with an extraordinary moment recorded in Acts 8. An Ethiopian eunuch, a high-ranking official under Queen Candace, encountered Philip the Evangelist, who explained the gospel as the eunuch read Isaiah. Ethiopian tradition holds that this man returned home as the first to spread Christianity. By the 4th century, Christianity flourished under the influence of Frumentius, a young Syrian slave brought to Ethiopia as a child. Gaining the royal family's trust, he introduced the faith, eventually becoming Ethiopia's first bishop, with the blessing of Pope Athanasius of Alexandria. Upon baptizing King Ezana, Frumentius helped make Christianity Ethiopia's state religion, shaping a distinct Christian legacy unmatched in the region. Christianity in Ethiopia didn't just thrive, it flourished in ways unique to its culture. Fleeing persecution, a group of missionaries known as the 9 Saints brought the faith to the countryside, founding monasteries and translating sacred texts into Ge'ez, an ancient Ethiopian language still used in worship. Among their works was the Garima Gospels, beautifully illustrated manuscripts from the 5th century that rank among the oldest biblical texts, adorned with dazzling artwork. Ethiopia embraced its Christian identity with a distinct strength. While Christians in Egypt and Syria often faced persecution for their Miaphysite beliefs, the idea that Christ's divine and human natures are united, Ethiopia made this doctrine its foundation. The Tewahedo Church, named for this belief in being made one, became a central pillar of Ethiopian worship. King Caleb of Ethiopia exemplified this faith in the 6th century when he led an army across the Red Sea to rescue persecuted Christians in the Arabian Peninsula, defeating a tyrannical king and cementing Ethiopia's reputation as a defender of the faith. Over time, Ethiopian Christianity blossomed into a vibrant culture. Saint Yared, inspired by a vision of the Trinity, created a rich system of liturgical music that still defines Ethiopian worship. His chants, sung in Ge'ez, range from solemn to jubilant and are deeply woven into the nation's spirituality. Ethiopian devotion also shaped its architecture. During King Lalibela's reign in the 12th century, nearly a dozen rock-hewn churches were carved into the earth, masterpieces of engineering and faith that mirror Jerusalem's holy sites. Even when European missionaries sought to reshape Ethiopian Christianity, the country stood firm, preserving its independence and traditions. The Ethiopian Bible, with its unique texts and interpretations, stands as a testament to this remarkable legacy, rooted in faith, resilience, and a distinct spiritual identity. Speaking of the Ethiopian Bible, now, while Ethiopia's Christian heritage has continued to shape its legacy as a nation, its ancient texts have continued to reveal a world of spirituality and history that predates most of Christianity's sacred texts. The Ethiopian Bible, a window into ancient faith. Imagine holding a book that predates most of the world's Christian texts, a treasure nearly 800 years older than the King James Bible. That's exactly what the Ethiopian Bible offers, a chilling glimpse into ancient Christianity, written in the enchanting Ge'ez language. Not only is it one of the oldest Bibles in existence, but it also contains more books. compared to the 66 in the King James Version. This Bible is more than just scripture. It's a bridge to a history steeped in spirituality, artistry, and resilience. Ge'ez is no ordinary tongue. As one of the world's oldest written languages, it has its roots in the early Semitic languages and is closely tied to the story of human civilization. Imagine a language so ancient, it's like a great-grandparent to modern tongues, such as Amharic, still spoken in Ethiopia today. This is Ge'ez, a language with roots so deep that tracing its history is like building a family tree for humanity itself. Just as scientists map human DNA, linguists piece together proto-language trees to link ancient languages to their modern descendants. Ge'ez whispers stories of ancient Cushites and echoes the era of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba. According to Ethiopian law, their union gave birth to Menelik I, the legendary founder of Ethiopia's Solomonic dynasty. This royal bloodline ruled for centuries and only ended in the 20th century with Emperor Haile Selassie I. But there's more to the story. Hidden within the Ethiopian Bible are secrets that could change how we see humanity. Among its pages are texts like the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees, which delve into the origins of humanity, celestial beings, and apocalyptic visions. For context, in the Book of Enoch, a group of angels, known as the Watchers, are described as having descended from heaven to earth, and against divine law, they take human wives and father the Nephilim, gigantic, violent beings described as half human, half divine. These offspring wreak havoc on earth, consuming everything in their path, including humans. The Watchers also corrupt humanity by sharing forbidden knowledge, teaching mankind about weapon-making, sorcery, astrology, and knowledge meant only for the divine. This Book of Enoch equally offers a rare glimpse into Jewish beliefs and traditions during the centuries leading up to the time of Jesus. Similarly, the Book of Jubilees, also known as Little Genesis, retells familiar biblical stories with fascinating additional details that seem almost too incredible to believe, including the fiery prison of fallen angels and the chambers where the souls of the damned await judgment. The origins of the Ethiopian Bible are just as captivating as its content. Many of the earliest versions were written on vellum, animal skins, and even stone tablets, showcasing the durability of this sacred text. Written in the ancient Ge'ez language and later translated into Amharic, the Bible has been meticulously preserved, embodying a spiritual and cultural heritage unique to Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church's decision to embrace a broader canon sets it apart from other Christian traditions. While most Bibles rely on the Hebrew Masoretic text or the Greek Septuagint, the Ethiopian Bible includes texts not found in Western canons. The New Testament of the Ethiopian Bible also goes beyond the familiar 27 books recognized by most Christian denominations. It includes additional writings such as the books of Synodos, the books of Covenant, and the Ethiopic Clement. These texts provide not only theological teachings, but also practical guidance for church communities. The inclusion of such diverse writings enriches the Ethiopian Bible, making it a spiritual and historical treasure. The preservation of these ancient texts has equally not been without challenges. Some writings, like the Gospel of Thomas, were excluded from the canon due to their association with Gnostic teachings. Early church fathers, such as Origen, condemned these works for their theological deviations. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church has maintained a careful balance, safeguarding its canon against texts that diverge from its foundational beliefs while embracing those that deepen its understanding of God's Word. Beyond its spiritual significance, the Ethiopian Bible is a cultural treasure that offers scholars and believers alike a window into the ancient world. The world owes a profound debt of gratitude to the Ethiopian Orthodox Church for preserving these extraordinary texts. Through its dedication, the Church has safeguarded a rich spiritual heritage that continues to illuminate the history of Christianity and the enduring power of faith. Now let's take a deeper look at the canon of the Ethiopian Bible. A tale of two versions. The Ethiopian Bible is fascinating, especially when we dive into its canon. Now you might be thinking, what exactly is a canon? Well, in simple terms, a canon refers to a set of rules or standards used to decide what counts as official in something. For example, we expect a phone to have one screen, or a country to have one president. Similarly, the canon of the Bible refers to the books that are considered official or sacred in different traditions. The Ethiopian Bible, however, is a bit special because it has not one, but two canons: the broader canon and the narrower canon. Let's break that down. First, let's talk about the broader canon, which is the one most people know about. This version of the Ethiopian Bible has 81 books. The broader canon includes some really interesting and lesser-known books. For example, it has the Book of Enoch, the Jubilees, and the 3 books of Maccabees. Other books like the Epistle to Clement, Baruch, and Esdras add to the rich diversity of texts in the broader canon. These writings provide a unique insight into ancient biblical traditions, showing that the Bible wasn't just one book, but a collection of stories and teachings from different periods. Now, the narrower canon is a bit different. This version was established under the reign of Emperor Haile Selassie, who declared it the official and complete version of the Ethiopian Bible. The narrower canon includes only 72 books, leaving out some of the more unusual texts found in the broader canon. Why this change happened is a bit of a mystery. Some say it was about simplifying the canon or aligning it more closely with other Christian traditions. But the exact reasons are a sensitive topic and remain a bit unclear. What's interesting is that even though the narrow canon is more official in modern Ethiopia, the broader canon has a deeper historical and spiritual significance. However, since the broader canon hasn't been reprinted since the early 20th century, it's less commonly found today, and the narrow canon is what most Ethiopians would recognize as their Bible. But why was the Ethiopian Bible left out of the global canon? Speaking of the narrow canon, while the Ethiopian Bible holds far more books than the standard Western canon, its contents equally set the stage for a deeper exploration of Christianity's hidden history. Unveiling the hidden history. In 2012, scientists conducted a fascinating genetic study on Ethiopians, and the results brought an ancient legend into the spotlight. The research found genetic evidence suggesting that people from Egypt, Israel, or Syria may have mixed with Ethiopians about 3,000 years ago. This discovery ties in with the legendary story of the Queen of Sheba, who is said to have traveled to Jerusalem and even had a child there. The idea that Sheba's kingdom could have had connections with other ancient civilizations is intriguing, but it gets even more compelling when we consider the Ethiopian Bible. Now, this raises an important question. Why was the Ethiopian Bible left out? Why is it that many people who share the same faith may have never even heard of it? To understand this, we need to take a step back in time and look at the history of the Bible. The Bible, as we know it today, didn't always look the way it does now. There were many versions of the Bible throughout history, and each one had different interpretations of what it said and how it should be understood. When the Bible was first written, it was in Hebrew. Over time, as Christianity spread, there was a need to translate these texts into other languages. One of the most famous translations was done by a scholar named Saint Jerome around the year 400 AD. He translated the Bible from Hebrew into Latin, and this version became known as the Vulgate. This Latin Bible included 39 books in the Old Testament and 27 in the New Testament, which is pretty much what we have today in many Christian denominations. But things weren't always so clear-cut. In the first few centuries after Jesus' life, many books were written about him, some by people who truly believed in his teachings, and others by individuals who wanted to profit from the idea of Christianity. Some of these books were purely fictional, like early fan fiction about the life of Jesus. These writings were filled with stories that sounded believable to the people at the time, but weren't actually true accounts. The problem was that without modern technology like the internet to fact-check these stories, many people took them seriously. This influx of books led to confusion, and the early Christian church leaders began to worry about the potential for false teachings to spread. To address this, they called the famous Council of Nicaea in 325 AD and the First Council of Constantinople in 381 AD. Their main goal was to decide which books should be included in the New Testament and which should be excluded. They established that a book could only be included if it was written by someone who had been an eyewitness to Jesus' life or a direct follower. The texts also had to be written in the 1st century and align with the core teachings of the Bible. The The result of these councils was the formation of a more uniform Christian Bible, which many of us are familiar with today. And here's where the Ethiopian Bible comes in. While the official councils of the Christian Church were deciding on which books to include in the canon, the Ethiopian Church had already been using a different set of scriptures. The Ethiopian Bible includes additional books, many of which tell stories and teachings that are not found in the traditional Bible. One of the main reasons the Ethiopian Bible was excluded from the global canon has to do with political and religious power struggles. This was because the Ethiopian Bible became a flashpoint for political and religious battles, because it challenged the dominant powers of its time. Unlike the standardized Bible used in much of the world, the Ethiopian version includes unique texts and teachings that reflect the region's deep, independent traditions. This independence posed a threat to larger religious institutions that sought control over the Christian narrative and its followers. By excluding it from the global canon, these authorities ensured their version of faith and their power remained unchallenged. As Christianity became more widespread, the Roman Empire played a central role in shaping what was considered official Christian doctrine. The Ethiopian Church, which had its own ancient traditions and interpretations of Christianity, wasn't aligned with the Roman-centered Christian authority. So, when the decisions were made about which books to include, the Ethiopian texts were pushed aside. Its exclusion from the global canon has kept it largely unknown, even to many Christians who may not realize that such a rich and different version of the Bible exists. And while the Bible familiar to most of the world followed a path shaped by translations and Western influences, the Ethiopian Bible tells a very different story. Preserving heritage amidst challenges. The Ethiopian Bible has stood the test of time, a shining symbol of faith and cultural perseverance. For centuries, Ethiopians have made it their mission to protect not only their sacred texts, but also the ancient language of their ancestors. Ge'ez, the language of the Ethiopian Bible, is still spoken by many, even by those who primarily speak Amharic. This language traces its origins to the land of Sheba, the same ancient kingdom that gave rise to Queen Sheba's son, the figure Ethiopians see as the ancient heir to their royal Solomonic dynasty. The Ethiopian Church, alongside the Eritrean Church and the faithful in Tigray, has faced both internal and external challenges throughout its history. From corrupt bishops to mistranslations of sacred texts, the Church's struggles are far from simple. Even the story of Abune Antonios, a beloved bishop who suffered for his faith, speaks to the deep pain and perseverance within this community. Yet despite these challenges, the Ethiopian Church has remained an unyielding force for tradition and faith. Externally, the Church has been affected by the growing presence of Western religious movements. The World Council of Churches, for example, continues to exert influence, and in 2025, it will hold a major gathering in Alexandria. For many, this is part of a worrying trend, the dilution of African religious identity in favor of Western ideologies. The inclusivity promoted by events like the annual Day of Prayer at Westminster Abbey, which blends Christian, interfaith, and even atheist elements, could risk diminishing the unique, rich heritage of African Christianity, reducing it to a mere extension of Western values. Amid this storm, Ethiopia's church faces a particular crisis. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, the Tigrayan Orthodox Tewahedo Church, and the Eritrean Orthodox Church currently find themselves without a pope. This vacancy, coupled with ongoing tensions and disagreements, threatens to divide a community already suffering from political and social strife. Some leaders seem more focused on aligning with Western ideologies than on preserving the authentic, ancient traditions that have shaped their faith for centuries. This moment in history could be seen as a form of ideological genocide, where the core of Ethiopian orthodoxy, its language, its traditions, and its beliefs, is at risk. Yet it's important to recognize that there is a growing counter-movement, a 21st century revival of sorts. People are rediscovering the power and beauty of the Ethiopian Bible, choosing it over more widely known translations like the New King James Version or King James Version. This movement may not be mainstream, but it is fueled by the information age and the desire to preserve something truly ancient and meaningful. Despite the hardships, Ethiopia remains a beacon of hope, a nation filled with inner peace, simplicity, and strength. Through centuries of famine, war, and political turmoil, Ethiopians have continued to stand firm in their faith, in their love for Christ, and in their reverence for the Virgin Mary. Ethiopia, the heart of Africa, is not just a land of history, but also a living witness to the strength of a people who refuse to let their cultural and religious identity fade. In recent years, more and more people have become curious about the Ethiopian Bible, eager to discover what makes it so special and the truths it holds. What's fascinating is how the Ethiopian churches have worked hard to make this ancient text more accessible by translating it into different languages and even doing academic studies on it. They're not just preserving history, they're sharing it with the world. For many, what's truly incredible is how this Bible has survived against all odds. Think about it. Over the centuries, Ethiopia faced invasions by Muslims and even Italy, not to mention the devastating fire that destroyed the monastery church housing the Bible in the 1930s. Despite all this, the book managed to endure. Its survival adds a layer of mystery to its story, making it feel like it holds even more significance than we can fully understand. It's almost as if this Bible has its own tale to tell, one of strength and resilience. As more people delve into the text, its deeper meanings unfold, revealing why the Ethiopian Orthodox Church holds it in such profound reverence. Interestingly, while the Ethiopian Church has fought to preserve its unique identity amidst external influences, its origins reveal a profound legacy that helped shape one of the world's oldest Christian traditions, the pseudepigrapha puzzle. The pseudepigrapha is a fascinating collection of over 50 ancient Jewish and Christian writings that date back to the period between 300 BC and 300 AD. These texts didn't make it into the Hebrew Bible, the Apocrypha, or the official list of sacred books recognized by most major Christian churches. One of the challenges with the pseudepigrapha is figuring out exactly which documents belong to it. Some of these writings are even included in the Old Testament Apocrypha by certain churches, especially within Orthodox traditions, making the boundaries a bit blurry. The name pseudepigrapha comes from two Greek words, pseudes meaning false, and epigraphian meaning name or inscription. Put together, the term essentially means false title or false authorship. This name makes sense when you learn that many of these writings claim to have been penned by famous figures from Jewish history, like the patriarchs. However, they were actually written centuries after those individuals lived, often by unknown authors. Despite their questionable authorship, these texts offer an intriguing glimpse into the beliefs and ideas circulating in ancient religious communities. Exploring the pseudepigrapha can open a fascinating window into the history and mindset of first-century Judaism, especially its development of apocalyptic ideas. At its heart, apocalyptic thought emerged as a way for Jewish thinkers to make sense of their world. They sought to reconcile the hopeful promises of their prophets, visions of a glorious messianic age, with the harsh reality of Israel's turbulent political and historical circumstances during the intertestamental period. This period saw a growing belief that the world was divided into two distinct ages: the present age, controlled by evil forces, and a future age, which would be a supernatural intervention by God. The idea that this divine era would completely replace the current one became a hallmark of Jewish thinking during this time, and even influenced New Testament writings. A powerful expression of this hope is found in the Book of Enoch, where the Son of Man is depicted as a pre-existing, heavenly figure who shares in God's judgment. Alongside this messianic expectation, Jewish thought began to shift in other ways. There was less focus on the fate of the nation of Israel as a whole, and more emphasis on individual responsibility and universal themes. This literature also pushed back against the increasingly rigid legalism of the Pharisees, offering a spiritual counterbalance to their strict interpretations. Interestingly, these texts were widely read among Jews, and it's likely that some New Testament writers were familiar with them, even referencing them in their works. The use of pseudonyms in these writings might have served a dual purpose, providing protection during times of persecution and lending a sense of authority to the texts by associating them with revered figures from the past. In this way, the pseudepigrapha not only reflect the struggles and hopes of a people living in uncertain times, but also bridge the gap between Jewish thought and the emerging ideas that would shape early Christianity. But beyond the theological debates and philosophical shifts lies a darker, more enigmatic side to the pseudepigrapha, one that ventures into realms of forbidden knowledge and cosmic upheaval. Forbidden texts, the chilling secrets of the pseudepigrapha. The pseudepigrapha carries an air of secrecy and foreboding. Its writings weave narratives that blend mysticism, prophecy, and cosmic battles. Hidden from the mainstream religious canon, they seem to whisper forbidden knowledge, as if glimpsing into realms humanity was not meant to understand. Among the pseudepigrapha are works like the Book of Enoch, which delves into chilling visions of fallen angels descending to earth, corrupting humankind, and fathering giants known as the Nephilim. These malevolent beings, according to the text, polluted the world with violence and knowledge of forbidden arts, prompting a cataclysmic flood as divine retribution. Another terrifying account is the Apocalypse of Abraham, where the patriarch Abraham is granted a glimpse beyond the mortal veil into realms of horror. He witnesses cosmic fires consuming the earth, grotesque beings, and the torment of souls, a vision that foreshadows the eventual judgment of the wicked. The pseudepigrapha often describes a dualistic universe locked in eternal conflict between good and unspeakable evil. The age of humanity is portrayed as fleeting and tainted, a mere prelude to an apocalyptic transformation where supernatural forces will overtake the world. These texts frequently reference angelic hierarchies and demonic rebellions, offering a glimpse into battles in the heavens that mirror the strife on earth. Even more unnerving is the suggestion that these works were deliberately hidden or written pseudonymously, not only to evade persecution, but to conceal esoteric truths too dangerous for the uninitiated. Their cryptic language and symbolism hint at a reality behind the veil of normal perception, one filled with malevolent entities and divine judgments awaiting an unsuspecting humanity. The pseudepigrapha's persistent influence raises haunting questions. Did the authors have access to forbidden revelations? Did they encode warnings of cosmic significance only to have them buried by time and skepticism? These writings remain an enigmatic portal into a forgotten world of terror and mystery, their secrets still waiting to be unraveled. Given its unique history and content, do you think the Ethiopian Bible should be more widely accepted by other Christian denominations, or should it remain a distinctive tradition of the Ethiopian Orthodox Church? Let us know your opinion in the comments below.